So the initial plan for me was to record a big old video talking about all my favorite TV shows and least favorite of 2023 with visuals and the like to go along with it. Of course, we are now in March of 2024, so I've decided to just go for what would be a quicker format. And between various reasons that I've been delayed, I'm going to do a tier list of all the TV shows I watched from 2023. I'm really excited for this. I hope you are too. I will put timestamps if you just want to skip around for discussions of shows that you have seen. I won't be spoiling anything in this video because I kind of want to give people recommendations and maybe warn people against recommendations for shows. So let's just go into it. These are in alphabetical order. I have rated these sort of as an average episode rating for each show, but I'm not going to refer to those for this video. I'm just going to go completely on gut feeling. And if you like this kind of content, let me know, and I will do more TV related tier lists. I think this is a fun format. So the first show is Archie, starring Jason Isaacs as Cary Grant, Archie Leach, and sort of chronicling his whole life. It does that thing in biopics that I find a little bit annoying, where it tries to just cover someone's entire life. But when you're doing it in a mini series format, I think it's more acceptable because you get to spend more time in each era. Some eras work better than others. I think some of the acting is not great, especially from the young versions of Archie. Really not good. But Jason Isaacs' performance is incredible. And that alone makes it worth watching. Though I don't know. I'm between a C and a D for this one. I'm going to go for a low C for now, and then I can always readjust these at the end. I'm going to sort of reflect, take a look at it, see if anything seems off. Archie's going to go in C for now. The next show is Barry, one of many shows, many sort of major shows that had their final seasons this year. Barry was one of my favorite shows on television, so I was so excited for the final season. It had sort of polarizing responses. It gets a bit slow at times, especially for a show that has constantly been known for being intensely fast paced. I didn't mind that though. There were moments where I was sort of zoning in and out, but it does have some great episodes. I think seasons 2 and 3 of Barry would be an S for me. And even though I loved the ending, the final episode I thought was a really, really strong ending and touched on a lot of the themes that they were going with throughout the series. I think an A tier is just a little bit uneven compared to the previous seasons, and maybe this is just that it's comparing unfavorably to what's come before. I still think it's a great final season, but not the top notch. It's a great year for TV as well, so I'm trying to go on a curve here to some extent. Um, so yeah, which will become clear with the next entry, The Bear season 2. Now, The Bear sort of came out of nowhere and has now become one of the most popular shows on TV. This is an easy S. This is better than season 1, which I already loved. Um, the episode Forks, probably my second favorite episode of TV of the year, behind one that we'll get to later. Fishes is also a fantastic episode. Love the finale. Love how it sort of allows focus on a lot of the side characters. Season 1 was really sort of hyper focused on Kami, but you get a bit more with all of them, whether it's Sydney or Marcus or Richie, and then you get to learn more about Kami's family dysfunction, of course, in the Fishes episode. So yeah, The Bear is fantastic. If you've not seen it, you definitely should. It is much more interesting than a show about people shouting in a kitchen sounds. It's a very human show. It's very funny, very intense, and it's quite comfy at times in this second season when it gets to slow down a bit. Um, there's like a whole 2 minute sequence of Sydney making an omelette, which is so nice, and a scene where a montage where Sydney's sort of going around the Chicago area, trying all different types of restaurants. So there is that sort of coziness factor in season 2 that wasn't really there in season 1. It is still quite dark, but yeah, that added element is a bit more emotionally diverse. It is one of the best shows on TV. With the shows that have ended now, I would probably comfortably say it is the best show on TV now, given all the shows that have ended this year. So yeah, hopefully, I think we're getting season 3 in 3 months or so. I'm really looking forward to that. But The Bear season 2 was fantastic. Easy S tier. Next up is one that might get me in some hot water, and it's Beef, starring Stephen Yeun and Ali Wong. Much like The Bear, sort of came out of nowhere, became this massive hit. I came to it a little bit late, and I didn't quite see the hype. I didn't really like the characters. I didn't think it was that funny. I did like the way it ended. The last couple episodes I thought were really good in a sort of very contrasting way. Uh, I don't know. I think it has a lot that it's trying to say and doesn't really land on a lot of it. Um, it was entertaining, but not anything groundbreaking. I'm going to put it in C, I think. It's better than Archie, though. Again, both of these could drop down to D, depending, but I think they're both low C. And I know people aren't going to like that because Beef was very popular, but that's where it's going to go. Black Mirror season 6. This is a tricky one. I caught up on Black Mirror because I'd seen the first two and a bit seasons and a couple other episodes here and there, but I decided to watch all the episodes I hadn't seen this year before the new season came out. Um, I think it was after the new season came out, actually. Yeah, mixed bag this season. I think it has some of the weakest Black Mirror episodes, but it also has some ones that are pretty good. It's definitely an improvement on the previous season, which was barely even a season. It was only 3 episodes, and none of them were that great. I really liked Beyond the Sea. That was definitely my favorite, and Lock Henry as well was pretty good too. Those were definitely my two standouts. The other 3 episodes, I thought Joan is Awful was quite possibly the worst Black Mirror episode, though. That was really bad. So I'm going to put that in D, just because I think, yeah, comparing to these shows, I don't think the overall quality was as high. It's close with Archie. Archie might go down to D. We'll see. But I'm going to put it in D for now, even if Beyond the Sea is like an A tier TV episode. Uh, yeah, sort of the average score, not that high. Next up is Blue Eye Samurai, which is another one I was kind of late to, but it did come out quite late in the year as well. This is a Netflix animated show. Um, I'd put this in B, I think. It was really good. I really enjoyed it. Pleasantly surprised. The animation style was really strong, really vibrant colors, good characters. It was just like a good first season, and I think it could go to even greater heights later on. There's some amazing action sequences, really, really well animated. If you like sort of action adventure, samurai style shows, this is definitely one for you. Um, yeah, I'm half tempted to put it into A, but I'm gonna put it as a high B for now. Well, if you're from the UK, you're gonna know all about Boiling Point, which is basically the British version of The Bear, unofficially. Um, but the film Boiling Point came out before season 1 of The Bear, so it kind of did it first. Pretty good show. I don't think it quite has the nuance of The Bear and its characters. It's a bit in fact, no, it's very cliche at points and very like needlessly dark, which I think a lot of British shows fall into, where they make their dramas so dark and so without hope that it just becomes almost comical. Whereas I think American shows do a much better job of having that balance of sort of drama and light-hearted moments, or at least like not having every episode introduce that one of the characters actually has like a really dark secret about themselves that they feel really insecure about. Um, it's a good show though. I'm going to put it as a high C. It was entertaining. It's close to B. I think it's better than these two shows. Yeah, we'll rethink the tiers later on, but I'm just going to do it as I go for now. And I think C is a good place for it because it's not amazing, but there are some good performances in there, and there were some moments that I really did find myself connecting to the characters. It's just by the end, it was a bit overwrought, I think. Next up is Captains of the World, which is a Netflix documentary about the 2022 World Cup. I'm a massive football fan, so this was an easy win for me. And the whole storyline of that World Cup I loved. It was one of my favorite World Cups to watch ever. So I'm going to put this in the A tier with Barry. One of my favorite documentary series of all time, to be honest. It's not usually my type of genre, but the subject matter was something I was really interested in, and I was really, really enjoying the sort of behind the scenes elements and how it recontextualizes a lot of moments. And yeah, if you're a football fan in any capacity, you have to watch Captains of the World. It's pretty much the gold standard to me of sports documentaries. It's really well made, really compelling, creates a great narrative, and also has like a wide reach of touching on a lot of the different teams. Not all of them, but there's interviews with a lot of the different captains, and you get an insight into, I'd say, at least half the teams, which is pretty impressive for a six-part series that mainly is focusing on Lionel Messi and Kylian Mbappe and Cristiano Ronaldo for natural reasons. So next up are the Doctor Who anniversary specials. Hmm. I'm between a B and a C for these. I don't think any of these episodes were like classic Doctor Who, but I didn't watch any of the Jodie Whittaker era. Just heads up. But from what I've gathered, I think a lot of people are even more positive on these episodes because of what they've had to go through for the past few years with the Chris Chibnall era. Um, I like it next to Boiling Point for now. And again, these two could jump up to B, but I'm going to keep them at the high end of C for now. Then we have the fall of the House of Usher. If you don't know, I did an entire video breaking down the fall of the House of Usher with my friend Clay on the Deep Focus show. I'll link that in the description. I think it was a really good discussion. So check that out if you haven't. Um, okay, hopefully you've checked it out because I'm going to spoil what I think about it. I did not like this show that much, similar to Beef. I'm probably going to get some flack for that because people seem to like this. Mike Flanagan in general not doesn't really do it for me. I have not seen the Haunting series, which I've heard by many people are his best, but Midnight Mass, I couldn't make it through the whole show. For the House of Usher, I did make it through the whole show, but yeah, there are some good episodes, some good moments, some good performances. But as a whole, for an 8-part series, I really don't think there's enough to keep me interested. And some of it is really just unintentionally funny, which is something that a lot of modern horror falls into, I find. So I'm going to go into the D tier with Black Mirror for the fall of the House of Usher. I don't think it's that good. Even though it has some good elements that I enjoyed, I think the D tier is where it belongs for me. Even though I like that sort of gothic feeling of it, I wanted to like it a lot more, but I just didn't. Oh, this is an interesting one. Fargo season 5. Um, Very critically beloved season of Fargo. Um, I'd say as much, if not more so than season 3. Not quite loved as much as the first two seasons. Much like season 3, I think there are elements of it that I take issue with, but I think I like season 3 more than most people. I think that's a really great season of TV, even with its slight flaws. I love the sort of Twin Peaks-esque weirdness of that season. This season has some of that, but I don't think it hits quite as hard. It definitely takes some big swings. But I think generally speaking, the crime side of it, the characters are all pretty well fleshed out, actually. Noah Hawley has a real knack for having that sort of Coen Brothers sensibility of having a character show up for like a limited amount of time, and they're almost immediately recognizable and likable and sort of just capture your eyes on the screen. Danish Graves is a great example of that. He was barely on screen for a lot of those first few episodes, and still he was like catching my eye, and just the look of him and the performance. John Hamm and Juno Temple are both fantastic, but there are a lot of other great performances. Wayne Rysdale, I think, was great here. Jennifer Jason Leigh, I wasn't sure of at first. I usually like her, but in the first few episodes, I was like, okay, what is this character really? But her character really grew on me as it went on. And Ola Monk as well. What a great character. What an insane, insane character. Um, he's probably my favorite of the bunch. But yeah, really memorable season of TV. Lots of great stuff going on here. I think it lacks like a standout, like knockout episode. but it was all just really solid. Like it didn't really dip below great for me. And there were moments where it sort of went to really great, especially episodes 8 and 9, I think were my favorites. And the first episode really pulls you into the world as well. One of the best first episodes of any of these shows, maybe the best in terms of a great premiere. So, with all that said, I think A tier for Fargo between Barry and Captains of the World. That seems about right. Next up is Inside Number Nine, Series 7. For those of you that don't know, Inside Number Nine is a British anthology series starring Steve Pemberton and Reece Shearsmith, who are the writers, and they play different characters in every episode. It is incredible how much they've managed to get out of this show to go now 8 seasons into it. They're going to be doing ninth and final season. Each episode is kind of a bottle episode set in a room that is number nine, either whether it's door number nine or there's different variations on it. Uh, this season was better than season 7, which I think had definitely the worst ever episode of Inside Number Nine, Nine Lives Cat, which was just unbelievably awful. This one, yeah, I don't think it has like a 10 out of 10 knockout episode, but it also doesn't have any bad episodes. I'd probably rewatch all of these just fine. Um, some of them work better than others, but yeah, I enjoyed this season. Um, I think B tier is fair. It's below Blue Eye Samurai, but B tier. It's not their best. And if you've never seen Inside Number Nine, I really would recommend it. Series 2 through 4 are legitimately the best anthology television I've ever seen. And I still think even in its 8th series, it's better than Black Mirror, which has put out less episodes and they have longer episodes. Inside Number Nine's episodes are about 30 minutes each. So I think it's even more impressive that they're able to tell such compelling stories in a much shorter runtime. So yeah, Inside Number Nine goes into the B tier. Next up is uh Invincible Season 2 Part 1, which is it's going to be a weird one to categorize here. Of course, it's only half a season, but I had some issues. I liked season 1 a good bit, especially the final couple of episodes. Season 2 has some pacing issues, I think. Um, it does have a really good twist at the end of the 3rd episode, but then what they do with that twist in the 4th episode, I don't want to say it bothered me, but it kind of bothered me. And the idea of where this story is going doesn't really sit well with me. I don't want to spoil anything, but there's only so much you can take the idea of redemption. I will say that much. So, yeah, I will reserve judgment until I've seen season 2, part 2, which is coming out in just a couple weeks. That'll be in my 2024 tier list if I end up doing that. For season 2, part 1, I will put it there, I think. Yeah, there's still some good stuff. I still think Mark is a good character, and I still like the general vibe of the show. But yeah, C tier seems fair, I think, for now. I think you should leave season 3 now. This is the pretty much the only major sketch show airing at the moment. I can't really think of another one that is this popular, but I'm really glad of it because I love sketch comedy. I think you should leave season 2. I think is one of the best seasons of a sketch comedy show I've ever seen. In terms of like the consistent quality of the sketches, it is pretty much unmatched. Season 3, not as good. I think there are like some really good ones in here, like the Darmine Doggy Door. That was pretty top notch. But yeah, I think the second half of the season is not quite as good, and especially the last episode. I don't think any of those sketches were good. So it does kind of really go out on a whimper, unfortunately. I hope season 4 is better because I think this was probably the weakest season of the show, but it's still, I think you should leave. So I think it's still the sort of the lowest it can be is C tier. So we're just going to keep crowding up the C tier. I'll put it just ahead of Beef. Yeah, that seems about right to me for now. Next up is Jury Duty, another show that kind of came out of nowhere and caught the imagination of a lot of people. Really unique premise. It's sort of doing this Nathan Fielder type style of the reality hoax. I love this. I really love this. I'm going to put it in the A tier between Fargo and Captains of the World. I think I thought it was really entertaining, really funny, really sort of natural, which of course it was. It's all improv, apart from Ronald, who is just being himself. He doesn't know this is, a fictional trial. It's a really interesting premise. It's really funny, and the ending's really wholesome. Yeah, I could recommend this to pretty much anybody, and I think they'd enjoy it. It is one of the best comedies of the year. And yeah, A tier seems fair. I'd be interested to see if they do this again with a different spin on it, maybe. If they do a different location with a different person coming in. I'm not sure. It'd be really hard to pull off again, is the problem. But I'd like to see them try. Jury Duty was great. In fact, no, I'm going to put it above Fargo. Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to do it. Next up, whoa, this is a big one. A massive adaptation, perhaps one of the biggest adaptations to TV in a long time, The Last of Us. I loved The Last of Us video game. I've still not played part two, but I'm kind of tempted to before season two of The Last of Us comes out. Um, I'm between A and S. I'm gonna go S. I think it's just a great adaptation, and I'm giving it extra points, I think, for how tough a job they must have had to adapt it. And I know that a big complaint from a lot of people is that it is almost too close to the video game. I don't necessarily agree. I think they keep it pretty close in terms of like the sequence of events and even the sort of visual style a lot of the time. But they change little things that really go a long way. I mean, everybody loves, well, not everybody. Everybody who's not homophobic loves Long, Long Time. That is just one of the best episodes of TV of the year. I know it got review bombed on IMDb, which is such a shame because it is just an absolutely stellar episode of television. And that alone would be able to put it into the A tier. But I really loved the casting of Joel and Ellie. I think both Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey are phenomenal. And a lot of the smaller roles are great too. The only small gripe I would have with it is that there's one episode which I wasn't too big on. I think it's the flashback episode with Ellie. Doesn't quite hit the same as Long, Long Time, but one episode of nine. The other nine are all great. It's between an A and S, but I'm going to go S. I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt for now. The Last of Us. And now for something completely different. Mortimer and Whitehouse Gone Fishing. This is the only sort of reality show on the list. Two British comedians, Paul Whitehouse and Bob Mortimer, go fishing. That's the show. But it's kind of one of those things where you have to watch it to understand why people love it so much. It's a very tranquil show, very relaxing, very funny. Like the sort of back and forth and the quipping between the two of them is endlessly entertaining. Um, there was one episode this season that I didn't like that much where Lee Mack came in to replace Bob Mortimer while he was ill, and it kind of just unbalanced the whole vibe of the show. It's just not the same if you take one of the two of them out of there. And yeah, it's just a bit of a comfort show for me. It's really entertaining and sweet. I think this is the sixth series of it. I'm happy to put this near the bottom of B tier. I think it's really entertaining. There's like a ceiling to a show like this, but very watchable, very sweet show. Next up is Poker Face, which is from Ryan Johnson, another show that had some really great reviews, and I think rightfully so. It brings back the sort of case of the week format, which we've not really seen that much on TV. Um, yeah, I really, really enjoyed this. I think the first few episodes are really strong, as are the last sort of three. The first three and the last three are probably my favorites, and the middle few are pretty good. But yeah, I really like Poker Face. I think it's more often than not really entertaining. Natasha Lyonne is fantastic, really likable. Yeah, I'm happy to put this. at the high end of B, I think just behind Blue Eye Samurai. Definitely worth a watch if you like the Case of the Week format. Really entertaining, really good crime show. Great soundtrack choices as well. Walk On by Neil Young, Driving on Nine by The Breeders. Yeah, some really fun episodes. Really like Poker Face. Goes in the B tier. Well, here we go. I did watch Queen Cleopatra, and I'm just going to spare all of you your suspense. And Queen Cleopatra is in the F tier. I do think a lot of the problems people had with the show are like shouting at the wrong thing. Like the whole idea of like, oh, Cleopatra could have been black. I think a lot of people are just hyper fixating on that and the politics of it. When in reality, the biggest problem with this show is that it's a bad historical show. It's supposed to be a documentary, but there's like these dramatic reenactments that are completely historically inaccurate with some of the worst acting you're ever going to see. It's a great, so bad it's good watch, but that's about it. It's terrible as a documentary, it's terrible as a drama. They try to do both at once, and it falls flat on its face. The talking heads interviews with these historians are just not adding anything, um, and sometimes contradict the drama that's happening on screen. Yeah, it's one of those cases where I think a lot of people just were already against it, but then it came out and it was like awful. So, yeah, Queen Cleopatra, I watched it out of morbid curiosity and I was not disappointed. It was abysmal and it is probably going to be the only show in F tier. Next up is another one. Oh, this pains me, but Sex Education is going in the D tier. I was not one of those people that had been keeping up with it since it come out. I binged the whole thing once it was all out. I'd heard that people didn't like the final season. I loved season one. I really liked season two. I liked season three, even though I had some issues with it. Season four was at best mediocre and a really sour note to end on. There are elements of this season that I did really like. The funeral episode, without spoiling too much, really hit home emotionally, and I really liked that. Other than that, there really isn't much to like here. I think the finale is really disappointing. And for a show that at one time had its finger on the pulse of young people and really was ahead of its time in a way in sort of discussing representation without ever being preachy. It does become preachy in season four. And I'm not the kind of person, right? My politics are very left leaning. I'm not the type of person that cares if a, a showrunner or a filmmaker wants to put forward a message in their shows. It was just far too much in this season to the point where it was to the detriment of the characters we already knew to be introducing all these different characters just to sort of be ticking boxes for representation. It felt very cynical, which is such a far cry from the real earnestness of that first season. Really disappointed in the ending of Sex Education, and it's going to be in the D tier and at the bottom of the D tier as well. Next up is Shrinking, the Apple TV comedy drama starring Jason Segel, Harrison Ford, and Jessica Williams. All three of them give great performances. For me, with Shrinking, I was kind of hoping with the subject matter that it would go a little bit darker with its comedy. I do still think it's good. In fact, I'm going to give it away now. I'm going to put it at the bottom of B tier. I think it's a really good show. I just think the ending, I spoke about this in one of my other videos, the ending of the finale hints towards doing something a bit darker, a bit more ballsy with this topic, which I think the potential is really there. It is a pretty funny show, but not like laugh out loud all the time. Most of the laughs do come from Harrison Ford, who is absolutely phenomenal in this role. Um, yeah, Shrinking, I think, has the potential to be the next flagship Apple TV show if they play their cards right and just go a little bit darker. I'm thinking like BoJack Horseman sort of tonal balance. I would love to see that. Um, but we'll see. We'll see what the creators want to do with it. I'm very intrigued because I did enjoy season one, and I think the potential is there for it to become even better. Oh, another show that's going to get me in some hot water, Silo. Um, yeah, this is going to be near the bottom of C if I'm being generous. I think that is where I'm going to put it. Yeah, this got a lot of hype as this sort of big sci-fi thing for Apple TV. I really don't think it's that great. To spend, I think it's 10 or 11 episodes on this subject, it's not really justified. The twist at the end could make season two interesting and could have some interesting world building possibilities, but I don't think it should have been the season finale. I don't really think it justified spending all that time building up to that point. I actually really liked the first couple of episodes and where it was going with that, and then it just sort of peters out, loses momentum. Um, yeah, it's quite a dull show, I think, at times. So C might be generous, but for the finale and for the first two episodes and the general set design, I'm going to give it its props. Also, Rebecca Ferguson's American accent is horrific. It's so bad. So that is also going to get it points knocked off. Here we go. Well, this is an easy one. I'm not going to, come on. Who do you think I am? Succession's final season was the best show of the year. It's not really close. As much as I love The Bear and The Last of Us, Succession towers above all else. And I've not always thought that. I've always liked Succession, but I kind of preferred a show like Barry that was airing at the same time, a show like Better Call Saul that was airing for much of the same time. I preferred both of those shows over Succession, but I think the final season of Succession takes away the little issues that I had here and there and is just a five-star season of TV. It is so good. It is the perfect ending for all of these characters. Connor's wedding is by far the episode of the year, but you've also got those final three episodes are also so amazing. The comedy is at its all-time best because it's used sparingly. I always thought the comedy aspect of the show was not that great. I didn't find the show that funny, whereas the comedy this season is really good, but also the drama is at an all-time high as well, especially the tension in those final three episodes and the conflict between the siblings. You all know Succession. It is rightfully being considered now as one of the greatest shows of all time because it stuck the landing. It ended when it needed to. It ended at just the right time as it was reaching its peak. Succession is fantastic, and now I've got the whole picture. I can go there with everyone else and say that I think Succession is an all-time great TV show. I wasn't quite seeing it for many years there. I thought it was great, but not to that level. Now I'm with you all. Succession is amazing. Next up is Ted Lasso, another show that I binged for the first time this year, knowing it was ending. Um, Ted Lasso season three. I think Ted Lasso in general is like a B tier show. Maybe like a low A tier for me. I think it's really watchable, really wholesome, quite funny. I love spending time with the characters. But yeah, it's quite low stakes a lot of the time. I think season one maybe would have been an A tier, but season two and three, I had small issues with a few things. Season three, especially with Keely's plot line. I think she's a better character than that, and she deserves more from the writers than what she was given in season three. But that's fine. I think, generally speaking, season three is really strong. I really loved the Amsterdam episode. That's like a 10 out of 10 episode of TV for me. Um, yeah, I loved the ending. The finale was great. I think this season probably has the highest highs of any Ted Lasso season, but probably also the lowest lows. So yeah, balances out to a B tier. I also love Rebecca's monologue while Nate is playing the violin. That was some amazing TV. Goosebumps right there. And yeah, B tier seems fair to me for Ted Lasso, just behind Poker Face. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Just two left now. The second documentary on the list, the second Netflix documentary on the list, Waco American Apocalypse. I'm not a big true crime guy, but I did enjoy this. I think I'm going to put this at the top of C tier. Really interesting story, really compelling interviews, and some really interesting footage. It kind of sort of justified its existence as a documentary because it's giving you something new on the story that has already been sort of widely talked about. I wasn't as familiar with it as some other people might be, but yeah, I thought it was really well told. And again, those interviews were really good. And I liked that there wasn't an invasive celebrity narrator or anything like that. Kind of lets the people who were there tell the story, which is always my preference in a documentary. So yeah, I'm going to go Waco at the top of C. If you like true crime, you're probably going to put it higher. It's just not my go-to genre, but I can acknowledge that it was well made. It was good. It's going to go in C. And then finally, Whitehouse Plumbers, which really didn't get that much traction at all. But I liked Whitehouse Plumbers. I'm happy to put it there. Yeah, in B tier. I thought it was a really good show. Justin Theroux and Woody Harrelson were great, but I think Lena Headey's performance trumped them both. She was fantastic in this show. Um, yeah, the episode 4 was really strong, and the ending of that episode is one of the most haunting juxtapositions between events and music and comedy and drama that I've ever seen. So for that alone, it would get up there. I think at times there's a tonal misbalance and some of the dialogue feels a little bit clunky, but yeah, I think it's a really strong show overall, especially compared to the critical consensus. I think B tier is fair. I think it's really good. Not great, but really good. And there we have it. That's my tier list of every show that I watched that came out in 2023. Do I want to change? I think I'm happy with that. I think maybe the C tier has a bit too much variance in quality, but I think I think that's fine. That's sort of like the middle pack of like okay to pretty good, you know. I think that's fine. And then you got the really good stuff here, the great stuff here, and then the masterpiece level TV here. So yeah, I guess we'll just run through what my top 10 of the year would be. Number 10, Ted Lasso season 3. Number 9, Poker Face season 1. Number 8, Blue Eye Samurai season 1. Number 7, Captains of the World. Number 6, Fargo season 5. Number 5, Jury Duty. Number 4, Barry season 4. Number 3, The Last of Us season 1. Number 2, The Bear season 2. And number 1, Succession season 4. I will leave a link to this tier list in the description if you want to fill in the shows that you've seen. Um, Go ahead. That would be fun. If you want to see me do more tier list content, please do comment that down below. Thank you for sitting through this video. Please like and subscribe, and hopefully I will catch you soon.